Okay, welcome to the final sort of section for this week. It's on the relationship between two variables. I'll just go to the side there. So we're up to 4a, which is the relationships, and then there's a practice question 4b for you guys to practice at. Now here we're going to looking at the relationship between two variables, so two numerical variables. And I'm going to demonstrate. I'll just make this a little bit bigger so you can see it a bit easier on the recording. Hang on, I'll scroll down. So you can see here, let me see if I can make it 180%, might be nicer. There we go, that's a bit better. So we can see, we're going to actually use two formulas, covariance and correlation, okay? And here, if you look here, I've got a brand of seller. You've got, like Samsung, Telman, LG, Westinghouse, etc. And I've got the particular model. So what I'm going to do, with this particular brand and model, we're actually going to look at the relationship between X and Y. So here you'll notice we've got energy consumption in kilowatt hours per annum, and here we've got total volume used per litre. Okay, and the idea being we're trying to determine a relationship, whether there's some sort of linear association between these two variables, energy consumption and volume of litres used. So what we do normally is simply highlight the two columns. However, just be aware you need to work out which of these is the variable X, which goes on the horizontal axis, and which goes on the vertical or the Y axis. And what Excel is very particular. It goes from X to Y, so left to right. So in our case here, Y is the first column. So whereas X should be the first column when you're actually going to generate the actual box and whisker plot. So I'll show you what I do. I actually click up the top here. I'll insert a cell. I kind of cheat a little bit. So I'm going to grab that first column and pull it to the right, like that. And now when I highlight these two, I'm just going to look at the numbers only. And I go insert. Whoops, this is a bit different on this Excel, I know, to the IBM Excel. But we should be able to look at charts. In fact, if I go to charts, that's more similar. So scatter is what we're going to look at. And we're going to look at the typical scatter like that, the diagram. And open it up. And again, you'll notice we've got a range of possibilities in terms of chart styles and so forth that you can choose from. So it's quite interesting. I generally would go for the one with the formula, and I can explain what that formula means. You can drag that formula out, and it tells you the linear association pretty quickly. So there's a couple of ways of getting correlation coefficients and so forth. So it's interesting, isn't it? So you can see there's a positive relationship because as X increases, in other words, X being, if I just drag it down, X is the actual total volume in litres used. As volume in litres used increases, energy consumption also increases, or Y increases. So as we go in that direction, left to right, we also go in that direction from bottom to top. So it's a positive relationship. And I'll explain that based on the PowerPoint slides before you tackle this question. And then I'll explain what this formula looks like. And again, you can jazz this up. You can make this look a lot nicer. Got chart layout options and things like this. So I'll just stop there for a second and delete that. So if I hit my delete key, you can also use the formulas. So that was a scatter diagram. And here's the formula on the right for correlation and covariance. So let's start with correlation. So equals correl and open brackets. You'll notice it's got array 1, comma, array 2 in the formula. So what that means is if you highlight the numbers in the first column for X and then put a comma there and then highlight the second lot of numbers, we can actually close the brackets and that will give us the correlation coefficient. Okay? Now, there's different types of correlation coefficient, and I'll explain that in the lecture slides also, so you can see the distinction, and the textbook talks about that also. There's different ways of looking at correlation and calculating it. But generally for the assignment, you can use this particular one, okay? Same with covariance. Now, and obviously, I'm just showing you how to use Excel at this stage. The explanation for what correlation means comes from the PowerPoint slides that I've discussed in class. In terms of covariance, same thing. So COV, and you see, we've got one for P for population and S for sample. I want the sample one. So highlight the column X first of data, comma, and highlight the second data set and close the brackets and enter. I think I missed a cell, so it doesn't like that. So let's have a look. All right, yep, there we go. So you can see covariance is positive there. And so positive covariance means that there's a positive relationship between the two variables. So in other words, as volume in litres per litre increases, so does energy consumption in kilowatt hours. Okay? So you can start looking at that relationship and discussing it. And it should give you some ideas on how to calculate correlation and covariance, but in particular correlation is what I'm looking for with the assignment between the different variables or different columns in your data set for the assignment. Okay, so again, have a listen to me in the lecture when I'm talking about the actual relationships and the types of correlation and interpretation, and that'll give you some clarification on how it all works, and then try the actual formulas based on this recording. Okay, I'll stop there.